I wanted to make a video about a brand that I don't really think I've talked that much about on my channel before, and it's because I don't really own anything from this brand, and you know, to not be so elusive, because you can probably see it in the title, I'm talking Hermes, which is the holy grail. It's either their holy grail or it's going to be on their wish list, you know, bags, shoes, accessories, that kind of thing. And actually, confession, these are the only two Hermes items that I do have. The click clacks, which are very, very popular, and I guess more accessible than their bags, which I think is what they're most well known for. And I wanted to do a sit down video sharing my thoughts about the brand. Not that anyone asked, but I thought given that I was talking about many other brands, including like the Chanel price increases, I wanted to just share my thoughts on the brand and why, for me personally, I won't be investing in Hermes bags. There's no shade towards anybody who has Hermes bags. Good for you, actually. I think that's an amazing achievement. Obviously, if I had unlimited wealth and I just didn't care about money and I could just, money in the wind, then obviously, like, I don't think I'd need to be making this video. This video is going to be specifically about the Hermes bags. So the most well-known being the Birkin, the Kelly, and then shortly followed, I feel like, by the Constance. Obviously, there are tons more, like the Evelyn, Garden Party. I'm by no means an Hermes expert, by the way, but I just wanted to share my perspective on a brand that I feel like I've educated myself a lot about recently, and have watched enough videos of people scoring their Hermes bag and all the process that they had to go through for months and months to know enough about it to be able to make this set of conclusions. And I will start with a bit of an introduction into the Hermes brand, just in case you're not super aware of the heritage, etc., because I think it's quite important to level set as to why Hermes is recognized as probably the most coveted of the luxury brands. So a quick history lesson, which, to be honest, I read about 2 articles and amalgamated some of the interesting facts. So let's hope that this is true, but you can always correct me in the comments below. So Hermes is a very long-standing, established brand. It's been around since 1837, and actually since they were established by Thierry Hermes in the 1800s, they actually started out, like I feel most of the luxury brands like Louis Vuitton and Chanel, making something completely different to what we know and love about them today. And for Hermes, that was making saddles and lots of accessories for horses. And so they were very, very much of an equestrian background. So what they did actually was start developing harnesses and bridles for the horses, and gradually, decades later, they started branching out into more accessories for the horse, though, to start with. So I think it was pouches or little bags to feed the horse. I think many years later, they expanded into bags, leather bags for women. And that's when all of the bags that we all know today have emerged. And I believe in chronological order for the 3 bags that I mentioned, the Kelly, the Birkin, and the Constance, I believe the Kelly came first. And it was in 1930 that it was launched. And it was because, I'm sure you guys know the story, but for those that didn't know, it's quite cute, these stories, and, you know, it adds to the whole prestige because the stories are quite nice. So the Kelly bag came about because Grace Kelly, the very, very famous actress and soon royal, she used the bag to cover up her pregnancy from the press. And so that's how it got its name. And it's very well known for its signature clasp on the front. So then I believe the Constance came next, and I believe that was in the 1950s that it was released. And the Constance was named after one of the designer's daughters, I believe. It's recognizable nowadays because of its big H logo emblazoned as the clasp, and because it is one of the more, I guess, versatile of the Hermes bags, certainly the more flagship bags that we know, because it can be worn crossbody and also over the shoulder. And then very later on in the 1980s, the Birkin bag, which I believe is the most coveted of all of the Hermes bags to date. And it's called the Birkin bag, again, because of inspiration from another actress. And this bag was inspired by Jane Birkin. And it's quite nice that all these stories kind of link to the etymology of the bag, because I think she'd on an airplane or something, spilt out all the contents of her bag that she was carrying. There was like Hermes papers and I think a diary and stuff. And then she said to, I believe, the director of Hermes at the time, who was sitting next to her, that she wishes that she had a bag big enough for all her stuff. And so the Hermes Birkin came about, and it's a lot bigger than the Kelly and the Constance. And I guess another most well-known thing about Hermes is their notorious system for getting access to their bags. And I really think this is an amazing marketing ploy, marketing strategy. Kudos to them, to be honest, for thinking this up and maintaining the air of exclusivity around their bags, because as you may know, to access these bags, you have to go through a rigorous and very time-consuming process of, working your way up towards being able to be offered these bags to purchase. There's more work to be put into Hermes, but I think it really adds to the, like I said, exclusivity factor. And because there's so few of these bags made, it does help in terms of adding that value over time, and is the reason why they make good investments. And so you may have seen the likes of, like Kylie Jenner and the Kardashians. They have wardrobes full of these exotic Birkins and Kellys. The Himalayan one is the most expensive, I believe, in the world. And it goes for like hundreds of thousands, that's the price of a house. So that's just a little bit of history about the bags themselves. I'm gonna get into the reasons for why I won't be purchasing an Hermes bag, and there are 5 reasons. And the first one I'm gonna get straight into now, because it's a big one for many, I'm sure, not just me, and that is, of course, price. And as we all know, there's a lot of history and a lot of quality and workmanship that goes into Hermes bags. And just for a point of reference, the prices that I've recently found online for the Kelly, the Birkin, and the Constance are as follows. So the Kelly is upwards of £7,500. Obviously, it depends on the sizes, because they go in increments of, I think, the 5 centimeters, so like the 25, 30, and things like that, I think. Though I think there's a 28 in between. I'm not too sure. But then you have the Birkin, which is then upwards of 8,000. And obviously, these are all, by the way, dependent on the type of leather, the color. Some are more rare than others, and of course, the material. So some more exotic than others will go and fetch the hundreds of thousands. And then you've got the Constance, which I think is a little bit more affordable than the other two, which is upwards of 7,500. So a lot cheaper than the other two in comparison. There's, of course, the other bags that they have, which are a bit more accessible, and you can just buy outright if you wanted to. So essentially, you're looking at 10 grand to drop on a bag. And just as a point of reference, when I think about what I could do with 10 grand, so that can, you can buy a car, you could put it towards a nice deposit for a house to get a mortgage, you could probably buy 2 or 3 Chanel bags. And so, of course, price is a massive reason why I won't be investing in Hermes, especially when I consider how expensive the Chanel bags that I already have are in price. I'm not doubting that Hermes isn't using like quality materials to justify the price. Like I said, for the how exclusive they are in comparison to brands like Chanel, for the workmanship, the labor costs, and to be honest, the marketing involved, they could make the argument that these bags are justified in those prices. But to me, when I consider dropping 10k into something that, okay, people will say is an investment, but like the stocks and shares market, it's a sunken cost unless you sell it. And so it's only really yielded its investment promise once you sell it, which could be 10 years, 20 years down the line, or maybe you won't sell it at all. So for me, I just can't consider dropping that amount of money on something that I won't necessarily see the value of. Because to be honest, it's not even something that I would intend to buy to sell. I'm not that type of person. I know some people like to do this and it can be quite profitable, but for me, like, bags are to be used, and I just can't imagine sinking 10k into a bag that's just going to effectively sit there, especially when I consider actually even their accessories and their other ready-to-wear pieces. So even the click-clacks that I do have, which I didn't buy. I felt a little bit sick hearing about how much they were, because I think these are like £500 each, but they're enamel, and maybe I'll make a separate video about this, but they scratch so easily. After only like 2 times of wear, the black one in particular is scratched up so much, and I just don't even know how, really, because it's not like I've been going around knocking it either. I just don't think for £500, so £1,000 on my wrist, I would expect a little bit of a better quality for these accessories. I know the bags, of course, are a lot better in terms of that quality point. If I'm going to spend that much money, I need a little bit more reassurance that it's worth that price. But obviously, it's not that simple. To my point earlier, it's a very, very clever marketing ploy because it's just so hard to get. So what they have done is obviously made it so that you must buy many Hermes items to show your affinity towards the brand, that you're very loyal. I think it's a bit ridiculous to invest, at least for me personally, to invest so much time and additional money to get the bag that I want, as opposed to just being able to, like in a Chanel or Dior, just essentially, metaphorically, put my money on the table and be like, can I have this bag? Morally, I guess, I just can't understand how you have to be baited, and it's known as Birkin bait colloquially, to have to buy all these things that you probably don't really want just to be able to get the thing that you want. And it's not like they then give it to you for free based on like loyalty points. No, you have to, they give you the opportunity to buy the item that you wanted in the first place, but that you've spent thousands and thousands of pounds to just acquire. Don't get me wrong, I love games. I have a Nintendo DS. I have a Nintendo Switch. Recently, I was very addicted to Animal Crossing, so clearly I'm not adverse to games. But in my day job and in my personal life, I think I have enough games to play, and I just don't have the time, the willpower, and the money, frankly, to just invest all of my time and energy and finances into getting a bag when realistically, like, I should be able to just get the bag because I've got the bloody money for it. What also doesn't really appeal to me is from the videos that I have seen from people who are trying to score a Birkin or a Kelly, I've noticed that a lot of the stores that they go into, whether it be in the UK or Paris, the biggest ones, okay, this is a sweeping generalization, but the staff aren't as friendly as some people have said for brands like Dior. And I don't know why that is necessarily, given that, you know, the saying, customer is king. You'd think that if you are coming prepared and armed with your money, and a large sum of money as well, that they would be nice to you about it. And I don't know if it's maybe, again, like I said, sweeping, but if it's snobbishness about the prestige of the brand, or because they know that, you know, they've got you in the palm of their hand because they decide whether you get that bag you want or not. Whether they feel like they have a bit more power. I just feel like, you know, friends in real life are just so hard to come by anyway. And it's so hard to make a real organic connection with people just in daily life. And so to almost force that or pander to the staff because you want something so bad and they just won't give it to you otherwise, I feel like that's, at least for me, it would be a bit demoralizing. Like, is it so hard just to get me that Kelly 25? You know, I'm a very direct person. I would prefer very much so to just go into the shop, ask for what I want. They say if they have it or not, and then if they have it, exchange money and be on my way. And so I guess to circumvent that, I'd be more open to, say, the luxury resale market or, you know, pre-love market. Obviously, there is a big markup associated with that, but I guess it takes the stress and the pain away from doing exactly what I just mentioned in terms of that agonizing and time-consuming process. But some people like the process, and some people enjoy playing the little game, or, you know, the accomplishment that you get from scoring the bag that you want. I don't personally like the idea of having to essentially suck up to somebody that I might not click with, but I'm forcing a connection. Obviously, if I found someone who I'm going to be like great friends with anyway, then of course that would be all the better, and I'm sure it'd be a lot less painful. But I just don't like the aspect of playing for months and months a game that I might not necessarily win, because ultimately something that I've also noticed with this process is that you might get offered a bag in the future. Let's say you go with all this Birkin bait and you have all this stuff and all these rodeos that you won't use or something, that you get offered a bag. From what I've seen anyway, it's usually the bag that you don't want, or it's in like an odd size or a bold color, like a neon color. And some people, I think, feel the pressure to accept that bag because, you know, they think that they won't be offered anything else, which I do think is a real shame, because you want a bag in a certain color, in a certain size, for a reason. It fits your wardrobe, fits your lifestyle, whatever. And they offer you something else, and because of fear that you think that in the future they won't offer you anything again, I think that's totally the wrong attitude on Hermes's side. And it's your money. It's not like £100 down at the Primark, you know, that you could almost write off in your mind. It's, like I said earlier, it's like a car. I think you get more of a say if you're an existing and long-standing customer to get the stuff that you actually want. So from that perspective, the whole process is just not that appealing to me. It's a no bueno. All right, so we are on to reason number 3, and it's a reason that, you know, take it with a pinch of salt and hear me out before you roast me in the comments. And that is that I'm just not a fan of the Hermes designs. I know, I said it. I said it. I just feel like they're a bit too mature for me, and they, you know, they come in very plain designs and they're quite boxy, and some of the bags, especially the Kelly and the Birkin, they come quite big, which I don't really in my day-to-day, in my lifestyle, need bags that big. And for me, it just doesn't really fit my aesthetic, my lifestyle, you know, my general needs. And I find just their designs just a bit boring. But I just think that for the price, I would expect something a little bit more exciting. Oh man, I'm going to get roasted in the comments for saying this, but I think I'm also approaching it from the practicality and versatility element, because the Birkin and the Kelly, to my knowledge, they do not have the ability to be worn over the shoulder. They're very much carry handheld, which from a safety perspective isn't great either. If you've watched my theft video, link below. I think you even have to purchase a shoulder strap separately, or some of the bags don't even have the ability to clasp on a shoulder strap. And so if there's only one way to wear the bag, it doesn't really appeal to me. Anyways, I hope that this reason didn't offend people. I don't know why people would be offended by a bag, because it's not, I'm not talking about you as a person. I'm talking about a bag that I'm not a fan of, just like we can be fans of apples but not oranges, or vice versa, right? But for me personally, I see my personality come through bags, and I like something that's a bit more fun, more interesting, versatile, like me. And for Hermes, at least for my current needs, does not serve them. However, the Kelly dance seems practical. It's got the, I guess, the heritage or the design of the Kelly, but with the practical straps and the ways that you can wear it. I believe there's like 10 ways, so that's pretty cool. And then there's the Constance, which I do also like. Given the price and the process it will take to buy these things, and the fact that there are so many similar looking bags, classic looking bags that, you know, have the same silhouette as the Hermes ones, I think I will just go with those. Obviously, I do appreciate the heritage, the workmanship, and I do appreciate the classic look of the bags. And I do think, you know, objectively speaking, they are good looking bags. I just think they're a bit too classic, too mature, and not practical enough for me. So I hope that clears up that. Now on to reason number 4, and it's one that's closely related with the point I just made around not being a big fan of the designs, and that's around the fact that you need so many accessories just to have this Hermes bag. So what I mean by that is, you say that you buy a car, but owning a car, it's not just you get the car and you can just run it. You've got to have the petrol, you've got to have your MOT, you've got to have probably a dash cam and all these other things, right? It's kind of the same for an Hermes bag, specifically the Birkin and Kelly, because I feel like the Constance is a little bit separate to this point. A lot of people I see get the following items. They get a bag insert because the bags are pretty plain on the inside, which, again, related to my third point, is not one of my favorite design decisions that they made. So that costs money. That's probably like 50 quid upwards maybe. Then you probably need accessories on the outside. So like a rodeo, which is the little horse, which I think is in the hundreds of pounds despite being like this big. And then you probably want a twilly over the top of your handle. And, you know, those are the little scarves that cost upwards of the hundreds as well. And then other things you probably want are like a bag strap or a shoulder strap, you know, to make the bag a little bit more versatile. So from the outset, I will say I understand the accessories that are needed. Don't get me wrong, I do the same with my bags. However, like I made the example with the car, there's a fundamental difference between why I'm willing to spend 10 grand on a car to pimp out than on an Hermes bag to do the same. Because with the car can get me from A to B. The Hermes bag cannot. In fact, I would even dare to say that the Hermes bag is a limiter for how I can get to A to B, because it's just so expensive that I don't want to be parading around with that kind of bag and that net worth on me. And also, if you consider the fact that buying the bag isn't the end state after you've spent all that money on the Birkin bait or whatever you want to call it, like you then have to buy all the accessories around the bag to be a true bona fide Hermes lover and part of that community. Because it's interesting, at least from my personal perspective, when I see the Instagram pages or the videos, a lot of people invest their time when they do have an Hermes bag in kitting the bags out with all these various accessories, and I get it. And it's part of that club, and it's part of making the bag your own, and, you know, shows your loyalty and your affinity for that brand and its heritage. Totally get that. But what I have found is that with more lower tier brands, or even Chanel, like I've mixed my Dior scarf to the handle of my Chanel Business Affinity strap. I feel like with other brands, you can mix and match the kind of accessories or bag straps. I know people have like the Dior guitar straps and they put them on their Chanel bags or other bags. But I feel like with Hermes, I don't think it's a thing of putting Chanel or Dior accessories on an Hermes bag. At least I feel like when you're part of this community, you are all encompassed, like invested in this brand. And for me, I just don't have, at least at this stage, I just don't have the time or patience or disposable income to just spend lots of money on little horses and stuff to decorate my bag. I know it isn't necessarily the case for other people, but it's just a lot more hassle than it's worth for me. Now we are on to the fifth and final reason of this video, and it is one that is very personal to me because I just made a video about it. And this is around just general impact on security lifestyle. And I think the four reasons that I kind of mentioned before were a bit more subjective, like they're about personal taste or, you know, your disposable income or things like that. But I feel like this reason will be universally applicable to everybody, every luxury lover out there, because it's something that I'm sure we all have to deal with on a daily basis. If you consider the fact that these bags by nature, of course, are luxury, we are in a luxury community, and the fact is that probably 95% of the population is not in a position where they can drop 10K on bags, you know, let alone like 2K for a mid-tier designer bag, right? And, you know, crime, at least from what I'm seeing, is on the rise. Unemployment also, relating to COVID and things like that. You know, it's not a great climate for people out there. And so I feel like it's especially in line with the personal experiences that I've recently had with regard to crime. Not only is it something you should consider, you know, in terms of just the day-to-day security of your belongings and how comfortable you feel wearing these items, but also to consider, does this bag add up with the rest of your lifestyle that you are leading? Because I feel like the reason why the Birkin and the Kellys and the Constances are so coveted and have that aura of being just for the elite is because the elite can afford to get high security, live in the most affluent neighborhoods. They are the most affluent people usually. And, you know, they have a lifestyle that is very much a mirror of their ability to be able to afford these luxury goods. You know, they go and have other extravagant purchases or cars or houses, whatever that may be. They can afford to protect their interests. They can afford to potentially lose the bag. But if you are like anything like myself and the rest of the population, that is definitely not the case. And that's definitely not a position that you want to be in terms of you spend 10 grand on a bag and then, you know, God forbid you get it stolen or people just look at your bag or you as a target. So it's definitely been a really big kind of wake-up call, not just in terms of Hermes, because it's just the subject of this video, but in terms of anything else I add to my collection in the future, whatever the brand, it also has to fit in with my lifestyle. And it would never make sense to me to drop that amount of money when I don't have the capacity to just constantly maintain it in the form of accessories or in the form of like a Jeffree Star kind of vault. You know, I keep my stuff secure in other ways, but I would not want to be seen in public and be terrified of carrying as well my 10-gram bag when I do love to wear my bags. So there you have it. Those are my 5 reasons as to why I won't be buying Hermes bags. Like I said earlier, my personal perspectives, and you know, if I suddenly won the lottery, then this video is null and void. But in a real sense, a lot of these reasons are things that I live by in everyday other purchases that I make in my life. And at least for me at this point in time, I just don't think it's something that I would want to invest in. Thanks for watching and staying with me this long, and I will catch you in my next video.